land anywhere around the world, but what makes Maori land so different to anyone else's land around the world if they throw away the culture, the baby with the bathwater, the history and the culture.
Okay, so here we are at Whangamata. We're on October the 4th, 2021. Here's us with...
What is your name?
I'm Jeffrey, and I'm with Perry.
And Perry is sitting next to Jeffrey. And we just come on the eastern side of Kinloch, and we're just looking at a good portion of the bay, and we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 par site I know of, just
Really?
just visually.
On the side of the...
From here to here in front of us, four par. Some par have got the history. A most important par that was used in the early part of the 19th century. You see the ropu over there?
Yes.
And
Kuta.
no. Well, okay, yes, it is kuta,
Yes.
reeds. And one of the few remaining traces around the lake that have remained historically have retained the name, and there was a pass there and had a much earlier origin. We're talking about, see that little island?
Yes.
Yes.
That's got an artificial causeway that Maori put rocks and boulders and built up a causeway, a walkway linking it.
Wow.
And so that's the only place around the lake I know that's got an artificial causeway and rock that sort of blocks off the boats to this day. And remember, the lake's about 1 metre higher with the control gates than it was once before. And these connections, but to know physically with the hills, I've monitored the tracks all the way from here to Whaitaima Bay, and we had to make sure, or I had to make sure that they avoided going in Maori land. They wanted, of course, a shortcut to go straight through Maori land and up the hill and over. So that's why I made them put a boardwalk down this end. Ideally, we were going up another street, but it's better now with the people and the bike users having this more to start off with, and the people at another street. The altitude must have affected some of their thinking, because they did drop flyers off, and about only one of 6 houses here are permanently occupied, but they dropped flyers off to letterboxes, not wanting the cyclists and that to have a track coming down their street, what they call riffraff, spoiling the tone of their neighbourhood.
Yeah.
And so hence it got back here. We had to skirt back up and then go up. When I say we came up to about 500 metre contour, and then laboriously followed the contours round, and right round to the hill. There's a shorter one that goes across, but one track's 22 kilometres long, and the other one's 14 kilometres. But I monitored and assessed the entire route ahead of the track cutters. And
So they're not going around the bay, they're actually going over the top?
They're all the top from 500 metre contour, although zigzags and that in the gullies, that's what makes the distance wise so long and for the cyclists. So the steep parts are on both sides for Whaitaima Bay end, and we'll on visit we'll speak to that, and this end marks, but we've bypassed the Maori land on places of quite a bit of sensitivity. And
Which place?
this place at the end of the bay here.
Yes, we'll go closer to it. You mentioned the names of 4 par. Do you know? You mentioned the 4 par. Do you know the names of any of them?
Yes, but cleverly, with my mind full of 1,001 others, the ropo par, the
Yes.
obvious one there, a ropo,
Yes.
and there one of my visits back, because I'd walk, and I'll tell you, it's a mission to walk around those rocks and bluffs and that.
Yes, we're gonna do it by boat.
And quite by boat, campers and campers and people in boats have even gone and tried camping there. I've pleaded with trustees in the past of certain places, caves and that, some which are bones, about campers going in and just squatting over the holiday time, and even to take trustees, even having a boat ready, has all fallen on deaf ears. They've all got better things to do. They want to be trustees of the block, but no responsibility.
Or no even knowledge of what they're being trustees of.
Well, as to give them that knowledge, they haven't even bothered turning up to get the boat to be shown. I think one particular day a chap had gone down to Fielding, plenty of time to go places. The trustees that are on the blocks on this side are also got the chunk of land, I think that's B7 block, all that headland on the other side. The two are locked in together.
Okay, because Whaitaima's family are in this block here, so.
Now one person from the hut in Wellington, he was the trustee, and when I said something, he was completely indifferent. Oh, Murray, what's that? Just a pile of rocks and hills. Who would want to live there? He didn't want to know about the Kiwiwi, the pa, and everything else. I said it was these rocks and bluffs and that protected them.
People.
So there's a disconnect with some educated trustees, complete mental disconnect with the culture in the old times. But there I go off again. but they'd take me almost everywhere around this lake, and where I've retained history, places, knowledge, and the different things of these places. I worked out for all this headland round connecting Whaikaepa Bay, I worked out there was a strong group that held on to these lands from about 1650 to about 1720. There was a hold, and they held on and protected all these lands here. And there was retreat places. There was power on both sides. I've walked on the hills. I've walked physically from Lake Edge across and down, and worked out the best ways, and from that found where power were bypassed and where the old tracks and trails went.
Are there tracks and trails up around here over?
There are now, thanks to my W2K track
Those
work.
are the only ones?
They're the only ones. The only ones, because the on the strip of Maori land, which goes a chunk. TeWhare managed to get a title just around the headland, a strip of land going up there. It was an odd thing they got cut out, but this was a few years ago, but no knowledge of the overall history. But the Maori land here, where it stops and runs, it's a bit like Whaikaepa Bay. Everything else is to Whaikaepa Bay Department Conservation land. They got hold of that, and a bit of retired farmland at the same time.
Are you talking about Tūwhare Toa?
I'm talking Tūwhare Toa got a piece there, as separate to Hapu, a piece there round the corner of the headland. Go on top of that hill there, and it's a mere a straight line. It's a mere 11 kilometre direct walk. You'll see a bench. And on that bench, a seat overlooking Karangahape, because the Karangahape just comes in the distance there. That is Karangahape cliffs and hills.
Yes, I see that. Yes.
And the bench and the seat overlooks there, way on top of the bluff. It repaid me from walking there. A few cyclists bother go that extra direction. They prefer the shortcut, of the 14 kilometre ride. And there's a seat there, and on the seat is carved the names of the workers, including their dogs, and my name's also on that seat. So you might call it the Perry seat.
Perry seat.
Here we go.
Perry's seat.
Perry's Pai.
But that's so I am hands-on connected, and I've seen more pigs and deer than I probably have people in my walks. But it's down here and to the lake, and anything sensitive tends to be very close to the lake edge, and against the lake edge. There was, but from here, I've got some history labs of at what happened, but there was where we're facing though. There's been some big battles, fighting and different things, but.
So from where we are, whereabouts was the obsidian quarries? Like which part?
We went neatly past them. In the post-glacial period, with the lakes are much higher, and the rises and the drops of the level, and many from the streams, the Whangamata stream, got washed and caught up in ash falls and things, to be water rounded and tumbled. And many of the local obsidian source are water rolled rocks. The quarry, the obsidian rocks that they took and used and traded from one side of the lake to the other, and one side of the coast to the other, and south, as I say, Palliser Bay, the oldest sites there have got Taupo obsidian, and even coming into early shelters in the South Island.
You know those two little, they look like they were napped at TeWhare that Gerard found underneath that figure with the mouth and the eyes?
Yes, that was the local obsidian.
Were they river washed as well, or had they been napped?
They'd been napped, and there was smears of kokowai on them.
Yes.
And that was a good thing, and they were especially pushed down immediately in front of the carvings, and they looked as though they might have been even put there as a ritual placement. They did such things at certain burials. Near here they buried a courier dog, articulated like they did with chiefs, separated the bones and that. They removed the fangs from the mouth, that would have gone for ear pendants or something like that, and they had many pieces of obsidian carefully placed with the dog burial. But the obsidian wasn't the higher quality obsidian. But noting there was only one place in the whole Whangamata fault that the only quarry place was for brown obsidian, and there was several pieces of brown obsidian, meaning it was a very early stage. And I think some pieces of brown obsidian also appeared in the earliest layers at Kaiwha, at the cave, Whakamoinga.
Kaiwha.
At Kaiwha Cave, there was some brown obsidian. It wasn't a good quality to use. It didn't have the sharpness of the black obsidian.
So when you say Kaiwha, is that where the biggest cave is?
Where the biggest cave is.
That's called Kaiwha. Is that got a name? Do you know that cave? Has it been given a name?
The hill place, with the place area, that was what it was called, Kaiwha.
Kaiwha.
I thought it was just the point, but the whole...
No. The Te Moanga Point was the point. Kaiwha was the place.
And I understand Kaiwha, it's the name given to the barge board in a whare that breaks the wind. It literally, awha is a storm, so Kaiwha is the storm eater, and so that's what I'm trying to piece together why they called it that.
It is also named, that links some whakapapa to landmarks if and when we get on a boat. Far enough, there's a Papora Point in place,
yes.
And some of these places are also linked and connected as whakapapa names. I've
already got my captain's hat, so I'm just preparing to be a skipper.
Okay, so when we get on a boat,
should we go down there a bit more?
Yes, because when you're on the boat, it will reawaken your thing as to landmarks.
Yes. Okay.
There were hundreds and hundreds of pieces of black obsidian all around there, but some of the campers and others were happily, they didn't have to go very far to get some.
So again, I could be a lot lower than I say. I was going to be on the 7 lake 5 and the lake 5. This is the last.
So just park in here and walk.
Oh, I think it's high.
Okay,
Okay, I'm going to turn this off. Or just also.
I think one time we had a sign here with the it was Maori land and a phone number and that for the trustees. And every time the rock climbers came, you know, like last time,
Yes,
they,
yes.
they threw it down, and even Mick O'Day was kept putting that sign up. But this is the, and this where we go
Yes,
here.
it is. It is.
But this is where we got the attitude, Maori land. I couldn't get the trustees. When I first came here, when I approached the trustees, because I had permission for under the proposed reserve scheme, working with the three trustees, and it was from here that when I brought to attention of the trustees about rock climbers, and then I said for them not to have the rock climbers come up here, all these nooks and crannies and that were full of kuiwi. And over there,
right here.
all up there.
Yeah.
Now you come here,
And
Yep.
you'll still be able to photograph it.
Yes.
See the red?
Yes, I see it.
That's a big tapu marker.
Yes.
And at one time it was purposely done that you could see right out into the lake. And when we come on a boat, even a couple of 100 metres out, you should
spot
be
it.
able, still be able to see that. And that was placed there as a tapu mark
Yes.
Wow, how on earth would they have got up there?
from the top.
Just hang down by ropes.
And near one side. And you can stand there fairly comfortably.
Yes.
So that would be pre-European, wouldn't it?
Oh
those
yes,
marks?
definitely. Cultural grounds and that, because you're sheltered. You're sheltered from the south, you're sheltered from the
No, closer
southerly
to him.
winds.
Closer to him.
You're sheltered. Rua Whaitaima Bay. Nothing hardly on the west side, but on the eastern side just packed with storage pits and stone rows and everything else, just packed with it. Get on the other side, more exposed to the southerly in the rough lake conditions.
No one's there.
There might be a par, but not the concentration of the more permanent agricultural garden areas. And it's the same as say all the bays, Mine Bay, and sensitive things round, and often you've got associated or near contemporary burial places as well. All tend to be favouring the more sheltered corners of the bays of the lake there. Yes. I've even had rock climbers here. Oh, it's cabby and digging. We found some obsidian and this and that, but we no. Sam Andrews told me when I told him about 8 or 9 kuiwi places around where we're standing. Never mind a major one with all those skulls in, and could have easily been protected, proper grading and that, without disturbing them. And I'm loath to have any bones disturbed or taken, especially taken to a modern Maori urapa, because these people have no concept of Pākehā Christianity or anything else, and not going anywhere, so why remove them at the convenience of the tourists and the fossickers and the rock climbers and everything else? And this is where Department of Conservation has accommodated such people and not say this is scenic reserve. You know, you're limited with the activity and we can go and keep the tracks that are made.
Yeah, there's nothing indicating what this is there?
But then, like Trevor Hosking, he put up a big sign when they did
Trevor
the cutting
Hosking.
at the boat, and he put a big sign up on the hill. Please do not take the artefacts. Well, that lasted 5 minutes. Silliness like that. And most people coming with a trailer.
They're
and
going,
that.
oh, what artifact?
Yeah.
Oh!
And that's it. You start signing these when Sam Andrews said that he was concerned about there being kuiwi. He said, but he told me there and then to my face, but the other trustees don't care about these things. These are trustees from Maori land. Well, look, there may be land anywhere around the world But what makes Maori land so different to anyone else's land around the world if they throw away the culture, the baby with the bathwater, the history and the culture. And unfortunately we've had a generational thing, down and down and down. As I say, Miko Day was good with 2 places, but they never tended the other 38. And so we possibly can liaise independently with this
Gail.
with Gail,
Yes.
and re-educate
Yes.
to follow up.
Yes.
Because look, there are some things on that block that change all Maori history.
Wow.
When I say all Maori history, the modern generation's thinking of what is Maori history. Do we need to get a little bit under shelter for you?
That was very nice.
If there are any, do you know of any caves around this area?
Just around here we might get a bit of a
more of a overhang.
See how breezy it is here? It's always had this breezy, savage thing. It could be generations of hua fat or anything else. Maybe even people ones, but won't go into that.
Can you just talk to this?
So the Kukawai applications here, see streaks, dots, that's all artificial, that's all proper Kukawai, not Jared hacking up volcanic rock to get try and find a red. This is, and these dots here, all carefully placed.
Oh.
All carefully placed, and they all have the spots, and they've used this as rough as it is, and we're immediately below the Kukawai.
The actual big.
So it could be contemporary, and it had proper meaning because you don't find it up and down, but it just happens to be coincidentally here. I don't think so, with the tapu marker.
Tapu marker.
Now some of these
Thank you.
some of these stones here, in spite of the impact, have been culturally placed in the past, been culturally placed, and some of those have been more modern or displaced.
Do you think there are assemblies of rock that are placed as tuahu? As kind of shrines, because we went to Hawaii and saw tuahu there, and they just looked, unless you knew that they had been placed there for a purpose, you wouldn't have divined that it was a family shrine.
There's a small low wall round the corner here, further over, and there was still sharp piece of obsidian mixed with it. It tells me it's the cultural thing. But these would have been quite bright behind you, and when they were first placed round here. This got completely overgrown with blackberry and everything over the years. And for here,
all this land is just in blackberry. What's the point? Who benefits from that?
well then, if you're a historically sensitive place, you looked after on the other side of that boardwalk,
Yes.
and neglected here.
And that's often trouble when land is owned by so many people. No one's actually taking care of it. It's the universal thing.
Now all these rocks, places, cavities here, and from here above us, that tapu mark, at one time you could come across pieces of obsidian and flakes and remains of bones that they were using obsidian to cut human bones, and a cavity in the vicinity of us, they threw, or after they fleshed the arm and leg bones, they threw them down the cavity, meaning to be caught up in that rattle, and that included one young person that had a big cut to their leg, probably trying to climb out or something, bring them out, trying to escape when they were surrounded. And we got a record of a battle that took place, but the tellers were saying it was way inland from the Raupo Pa, but I think it got lost in the detail and telling, and I believe the place described in that is this place we are here, just up from Raupo, not way inland. There's no other suitable place that battle and fighting took place. I've got some detail of the name and the people involved, and people doing the fighting, the killing. Okay, so just leg bones. They were all left leg bones. No right leg bones, just left leg bones.
Did they only have one leg?
No. There was an old man who wouldn't say his prayers, so I took him by his left leg and threw him down the stairs. That came at the time of persecution under Oliver Cromwell, and it had a sinister thing. But in this, it was to separate physically, so their spirits and that they'd killed and fleshed and dined on wouldn't follow them. It was this complete separation.
Wow. Do you think that's possibly why, when they did that excavation in the Whakamoinga cave, they found evidence, well, they found remains of 10 different skulls, but nothing else? No other bones, no other bits of bones, just remains of 10 different skulls. So was that...
As a repository, remember even Lapita ware with the bones and that in them, all the earliest skeletons 3,500 years ago, disarticulated bones, they have not found a single skull, and yet these bones were carefully placed, corrected, put in the pots and that, and stored. So it's a matter of the custom too, with skulls. Even certain people, like burial places, have been involved in that Oaxaca, and under a little ledge they'd make an artificial mound, and they'd just place the head or something, just the head, no other bones, and some of these people were taken many miles, even round the country, in baskets and that, because it was an ancestral head to be looked after and revered. So just as much was done for their own people as they were done for the enemies.
Often it was the only way they could return anything of the body back to its home territory, to pull off the head and take it back home, because they could at least transport a head as opposed to a whole body, you know, back to their wives or wherever, and saying, oh...
The head of TeWhare was separated and put in a fine wove basket, carrying basket, and for generations it was taken, and seasonally, annually, it was placed, carried miles and placed. His skeleton was all left in the cave, but his head was taken, and at the time of the kumara plantings and that, to ensure the fertility of the lands and crops.
Wow.
But
that's a great story, imagining that.
That ended up, unfortunately, at the mercy of the rock climbers on Doc Scenic land. Was one of my objections in that, and all they did was, they were nipping over Maori land to get access to these burial places, and then putting tracks to link up with the present dock tracks. And the only response to Doc was to suddenly clear more land and allow them permanent camping places and toilets and that, when it should have just been kicked off and banned altogether on the scenic reserve. What was the use? I worked at one time with Commissioner of Lands for Lands and Survey, and I'd insist that land got either changed from recreational to scenic to preserve that and stop the roads and stop the things. And that was to be backed up and supported of the cultural sites and that were being affected, that were in the areas there. But anyway, yeah, so they revered people, and they were merciless to the enemies. or other war parties came, and in this case probably surrounded and attacked and killed the people here, and left most of the bones bleaching on the ground. And that's what made this so sensitive. You know, rock climbers, they put tracks in where I told the trustees don't allow any of them in.
But how would they know? That's the thing. When we were there, they apologised. They didn't mean to cause offence, but they mistook those kokowai markings for mould, you know.
Yes, but if the trustees had done their job, and the signs hadn't been continuously thrown down by the people that were coming in here and availing the things, they did know, do not come. Ring this and that trustee that you are here. Let's have a record who's doing the climbing, who's coming in. They were fully aware of this. And then one was doing it and getting away with it. They all I just thought it was just so open, fair game.
Slather.
It's
the only way to do it, you could carve things in the trees and that would stop them from... Or on the rock, hey? Sign thing.
Yeah, but when the first trustee I dealt with, he just said the rest of his trustees couldn't care about such things. And workings are pretty well pretty well peaked out on this side of the bays. And
So there would have been a lot of workings done here in this area, right?
this whole wider area would have had a protection up top. You know, it was quite easily. Ropa was a big pa, well it was the main pa, and that's got storage pits in it.
Is that the one that you pointed out,
Yeah.
that's got the leaves on the front?
And it's got storage pits.
And that's its old name, is Ropo.
Okay. Te Ropo. And that's the old name. And there was also another, there were two palisaded places. One was on that side, and she got the burial place basement there, and one on this side, and then you go to Ropo, and then round the corner and further round was considered by Maori the most one of two tapu places in this whole area.
Really?
The other one was at the other tapu place, and that was the permanent tapu place, was at Otuparai.
Otuparai.
Bay.
Oh my God, Parawira.
Parawira. That was when Mackenzie named an insignificant cultivation round the corner, just to get away from Otuparai and Rangatira and the importance of the places.
Yes.
Her and Andrew Kusabs, they fabricated that development to rely on people's ignorance. So here there was a defensive works here overlooking the lake corner. You had Ropa, and you had another one, and that one was not this place or anywhere else around. That was considered a permanent tapu place, and the other one was Otuparai. So all the way Taupo, Tauhara, right around here, only two permanent tapu places, and yet who knows of them? And look at their development, and certain people now trying to cash in, knowingly getting in their feet onto a bit of land there. So there's this whole area is sensitive, and the kokowai marks, as I say, top and bottom, just concentrated in that one place, but done not in concealment, but deliberately to be seen out by people coming into the lake, almost a beacon. This is the place to come and be at.
Placed together.
Placed together, as well as a warning for those that have no right to be, coming this part here.
Oh, we must be safe by time.
There's, I think I've been going around a little bit, there's remains a bit of Kiwi around there, but...
Are these places that you're talking about, are they noted anywhere? Are you the only one who knows these things, or is it reported?
How do I deal with chairman, trustees, notes, reports, everything? Where are they all dead and completely ignored? Where's the responsibility passing them down when they can't even get the trustees to get on vote for 5 minutes to show the desecration going around their place? And another one will say, oh, they're just rocks and that, no one be no use to anyone. This has been This has been a case in hand for many, many years, and the mindset is still exactly the same today. Mick O'Day, okay, one place on his land, another place on a farmer's land, and nothing followed up. They've now been harvesting all the trees in the forest next door. I haven't been contacted about that. That could be advisory, but they've now just harvested all the trees, of which I've got quite a few sites marked in there, marked and pegged off. But still, even with harvesters and that, they should be aware of the urupā and that they should be very careful to go over, regardless of it being signed off. So this is happening right now under trustees watching that. But when I at Kākoho there was driving down the road, and I saw the farmer disking the paddock, so I stopped the car, leapt over the fence, rushed to him and said, "Oi, oi, oi," and then found out he'd leased the land from trustees. So I said, "Have they told you about this and that?" "No." So we ended up at his place, me doing the map. It's just empty rhetoric for your reports, your discussions, your meetings with trustees and chairmen and that, and they just come, they have the annual meal, the feed and whatever allocations for money, and then they wait for another year. I know Brian Jones, he was all upset. He'd come over from a freebie to Italy and come back, and the manager, I point out in urupā, said, "Look, you're letting them go over and developing on urupā." And he got in touch with me. Oh, but how come the manager knew, but the trustees weren't looking at their reports, the annual things, and where these places were? Then they get in a panic if someone points out they're on top of an urupā.
Yes, they should.
But they should never have even started to allow that, and they're using the big crushers. That's the ones that fill the drums up and let go roll down the hill to crush this crop. So they're using urupā to as a place to roll these big crushing drums down. So I've seen example everywhere. And it's such a simple thing to have these things noted, protected, put aside, and even pointed out when they do their little annual journeys on the farm trucks, you know, and that they have their meetings, and they're told a bit of history, and that urupā is such and so is buried here, here's the whole settlement place, just to refresh them. It's just as quick as to say it as you're driving past it. It's all lost. There's a collective, seems to be a collective cut-off point about such things on land that all the figures are interested in is how much stock and what's the annual return for this and that with the land.
Yes.
And nothing's retained, and it should be part of their annual meetings to have these things talked about or pointed out when the farm managers and that goes and points out the stock and the sheds and everything else they've got. No, it's no effort. No effort. But one had, her and her sister had 50 acres of land cut off from the block. He didn't know why, never inquired why. Unaware of burials and meeting house site and everything else that was particularly put aside for his family to be guardians of.
Well, is there anywhere else we need to explore here? The weather's not exactly cooperating.
Well, it was just being aware this was a congregation place, and people probably from the Western Bays and from Taupo, and the big food gathering places were Whaitaima Bay. They did intensive early agricultural things, generations after generations, slowly built up the soils in the places. I had everything marked out on a map. I left the trustees with arrows pointing to every kawiwi awareness area.
Around here.
Carefully measured, plotted
So-
out, indicated with arrows and that.
So that
We're left with the trustees, with the officers and that, pointing out exactly. One part of my objection to even have them there, but they just relied, just go up and down here, and they quickly ignored that and put their tracks through. Then the bones, every kawiwi in that was all gutted out. No, they had physical between photos, taken distance and the arrows pointing.
So potentially they still have that information.
Oh, I don't know. You get 2 or 3 trustees after that, and they all...
We could contact them and find out.
You're dealing with a 3rd generation of somebody, and when generation number 2 couldn't get together or to visit and have these physically pointed out.
So when did you make these maps? How far back?
Oh, in the 70s.
Oh yeah, that's a long time ago.
Oh yeah, so you say there. And all our interested in is just
years ago.
the current, the rocks that go down there,
Yes.
across between Raupo and the beach here, that lot of rocks.
Yes.
Well, just back around there is a small little shelter, and it's got a quite a big bright pigment mark too.
Has it?
Mm.
Is this where the shimmer? This isn't where the shimmering rocks are,
No,
is it?
no. No, you don't get the shimmering.
So right over there, that's where we're going to be looking in the future for it. That's where we'll be.
But there's a big bright red pigment. That's the only exception with a very small place. And what the reason for that, when they usually just got the small dots and dash pigment marks, often finger applied. Once you get a single one, person be sitting there and be putting something on themselves and then onto the rock as an physical attachment.
Mm.
You've got one on that at an overhang going way down here, way down past the end of the beach before the next couple of bays. That's on this side. Got a rock overhang and just one single pigment mark on it. Mm.
Wow.
All the worked obsidian and that was on both sides of the bank. He said, why would they have it here so close to the lake? I said, no. 1940s the lake was a metre lower and they're quite comfortably on higher ground.
Yes.
Working all the obsidian that they brought from the fault lines inland, and they were working them, and some of them then got taken by canoe and distributed. The people here did a trade and worked obsidian here.
Yes.
They were trading that with Waka coming around the lake, and they couldn't bypass them, they had to deal with them.
So they
And so Raupo, they'd have baskets full of worked obsidian, and they'd trade the obsidian with the canoes below. And I always figured out if a deal went bad, they'd drop a big rock onto the Waka.
What, sink it? Mm-hmm. It was like a mokahi, one of those raft ones.
Well,
There's
a bit of rock place, and they had these remains of baskets of the kits with all the worked obsidian, and they had some big rocks at the same time lying around.